Namaskara. I'll give a brief introduction of Gokul. BSKB Association, popularly known as Gokul, it is a 96-year-old charitable trust in Mumbai, and our activities include a community center at Sion and a home for senior citizens, Ashaya, at Nerul in Navi Mumbai. With over 5,000 members, we have been actively interacting for religious, cultural, and social causes. The BSKB YouthWing is conducting Sunday interactive sessions along with the talent. Today, we present to you the 17th episode of Sambhashana, an inspiring interview series, the interview of Shri Pradeep Kumar, Chairman of Karnataka Bank. He'll be interviewed by Srimati Sowdamini Bhat. Sowdamini Bhat, a chartered accountant by profession, has had experience of 18 years in the banking and the financial sector. She has worked with multiple organizations like ICICI Bank, Chartered Standard Chartered Bank, ING Vyasa Bank, and Indus Bank. She has worked across various segments in corporate banking, investment banking, and advisory services. Now, without much further ado, I'll hand it over to Sowdamini.
Yeah, thanks, Guru. Thanks, Guru, for the lovely introduction. Once again, I welcome everyone to BSKB's YouthWing Association's interactive sessions Sambhashana series. In today's episode, we have the privilege to welcome aboard Mr. Pradeep Kumar, a veteran banker who has spent over 4 decades in banking sector. His humble introduction is that Pradeep sir has worked with the largest bank in India, which is State Bank of India, for 39 years. Starting from a position of a probationary officer in 1976, he has worked across many areas in the bank, including retail banking, corporate banking, treasury, operations, and even the country head of USA. He retired in 2015, and his last assignment in State Bank was being the managing director of corporate banking segment. He is now on board of renowned organizations like Shri Transport, TVS Capital, Asset Reconstruction Company, India Limited. He's also associated with government assignments like being member of Bank Board Bureau, which is an advisory board to government for public sector banks. He's a treasurer of a 62-year-old NGO organization for people with disabilities at Bangalore. And he's also a chairman of India Music Experience Trust, which is India's only music experiential museum. Last but not the least, at present, he holds the position of being the chairman of one of the most popular bank in southern India, Karnataka Bank. It is an honor to have you with us, sir. And I must really say that all these accolades I just mentioned represent just 45 years of experience and knowledge. And I'm sure today, with this session, you will have, we will also learn aspects relating to leadership with simplicity. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Sowdamini. Thanks for that wonderful introduction. At the outset, I'm grateful to BSKB YouthWing Association for giving me this opportunity to chat with you all. I've lived in Bombay for 12 years as part of my 39-year career with SBI, State Bank of India. Not in one shot, but three tenures of 4 years each. I have attended many functions at Gokul, but I have not actively participated in any of the BSKB activities during my stint in Bombay. Of course, 2014, I got introduced to Dr. Suresh Rao, the current president of BSKB, and my involvement increased marginally. Of course, now Suresh Rao and me are in touch for basically at this time for fundraising for the new building. I have contributed my might, I would say, through my contacts. And I take this opportunity for thanking everybody in Gokul for giving me this opportunity to get in contact with all of you. I hope this session will be very interactive, and I would like to listen more than talk more. I hope we'll get a chance to interact a lot more with the younger friends in Mumbai and and of course, as Sowdamini says, maybe in other centers, because YouTube, the reach is everywhere. Yeah. Thank you, Sowdamini.
Sure, yeah, sure, sir. Even we hope the same. And just to start, if I may ask something, we started about a long way back in your career. If I may just say that, did banking choose you or did you choose banking?
See, those days, I don't think we had any career in mind when we were doing any course. Unlike people now are very clear what they want to do and pursue the right education course. We are just meandering, did statistics. I was doing PG in statistics when one of our relatives who was also in Bombay some years earlier, used to visit BSKB. One Mr. I. Jagdish Rao is my mother's cousin. He visited us. He was working with State Bank and just casually asked him, no, how does one enter State Bank? What is it? How is it as a career? So he said, he sort of spoke some encouragingly about it. He was with the bank at that time for maybe 10, 12 years. So slightly senior to me, my mother's cousin. So, and he said, maybe advertisements will come in a couple of months, and it did come in a couple of months. Just wrote the exam and got it. I think it was sheer serendipity, that's all. I don't think I had in my mind that I should have banking as a career. And my background was not commerce or accountancy or anything, or economics also. It was only statistics. Of course, as part of statistics, we learned some economics also. But it was just sheer accident. Like maybe many others who joined State Bank with me had varied backgrounds like PG in English, PG in physics. And I think maybe only 10 or 15% were of the commerce or accountancy background. I mean, that was the situation then, I think. Of course, banks were a large source of employment for educated young Indians at that time.
Correct.
And I think between maybe 60s and 90s, a lot of young Indians have joined the Indian banking system. At that time, mainly the public sector, because when I joined, there was some old generation private sector banks like Karnataka Bank, public sector banks ruled the roost, and there were some foreign banks. So I think it was just sheer coincidence. I don't think I aspired for a banking career. It was one of the options. Maybe banking was one of the options then, because after doing maybe PG in statistics, what do you do? Go to teaching? And I was not very comfortable with teaching.
Okay.
And of course, there was an opportunity maybe to go abroad and study higher. Family circumstances perhaps would have prevented it. I don't know. I mean, these are all, we are talking from hindsight, maybe. So I think this was a good break. And actually, I was in my second year of PG when I joined the bank.
So I can conclude that both of you all chose each other. Banking chose you and you chose.
I don't know. It is just sheer coincidence. I don't think it is a, see, unlike you're a chartered accountant, banking was one of the options for you. I don't think it was an option like that. You know, just a job. At the time of joining, it was just a job. Job was necessary. Of course, if one made a career of it later, that's a different issue.
And what a career, I may say that. So what do you perceive now of banking in the current form? So as to say that it's evolved like anything, the technology in the banking, how is banking to you now as compared to last, over the decades, you have seen 4 decades of changes in banking.
Yeah, bank has thoroughly changed from the day I joined to the bank today. I don't think you can recognize the bank except that some basic products are still there. No? You have a savings bank, you have a fixed deposit, you have a current account, we give working capital, we give project loans. They're all still there. But I think the evolution has been that bank has become basically, I think, a technology company giving banking products. When I joined the bank, I think to get a calculator, small electronic calculator, I think it was a luxury. Today, I don't think without technology, banking can survive. I don't think no bank, however small it may be, can survive. So I think it has become focused more and more on technology. That is number one. Number two, very competitive. Customers are very aware. Those days was regulated. Everything, interest rates were regulated. I mean, if State Bank was giving 10%, so was Punjab National Bank, and so was Karnataka Bank. It was all, interest rates were regulated. Now interest rates are free. So you have to not only give good interest, the right interest rate, but also good service. And service depends upon not only on the person. Earlier in the manual days, it was totally dependent on the person giving this service. But today, it is not only the person is also important, I am not saying no, but the quality of technology. The quality of implementation of technology is very, very important. The products you offer using technology is very, very important. Banking has seen a sea change, and I think technology, as I was telling in Karnataka Bank, now we'll have to run to be wherever you are. If you have to go ahead of others, you have to go ahead of others, you have to sprint.
Yeah.
If you run, you keep pace with the others, at least in technology. Technology drives banking, the products, services, processes, everything is driven by technology. That's a sea change from the days I have when everything was manual. I said it was getting a calc. We used to have an ad. I don't know, your generation and many of the people who are listening may not have seen. You used to have a facet adding machine. You have to put numbers and crank a lever. For clearing, I mean, I don't know how much of operational business you have done, or many guys. I mean, those days, math balancing clearing was a big issue. And for that, we used to have those machines, simple adding machines to join, to total up all the amounts of checks. But today, everything is automatic. You give it, I mean, the usage of checks itself will come down dramatically. But still, whoever issues checks, everything, it is now imaged. Everything is using check truncation and image. So totally changed. And
Are you happy with the change?
Other thing was,
happy with the change?
other thing was the change was very slow those days. I mean, it was very slow. I mean, once in 3-4 years, something used to change, processes used to change, very new products never used to come. So survival without even learning much was easy. Today, products are coming every day. Processes are changing every day. And the way we deliver products is also changing. So even somebody in the bank has to learn continuously. Otherwise, he or she will become outdated. Correct. Those days, maybe learning was okay, chalta hai, till computerization came, people never used to learn. There's no need also. And training those days was people have to go physically to a training center and get trained and come. Now, I don't think you require to go to, unless it may be soft skills, you may have to go to training. Everything's online. Things have changed dramatically. Every information is available at the tip of your fingers. In SBI, we used to have a system of issuing circulars. So unless you read the circular, it's not up to date. Now, of course, it is available on your desktop. All instructions are available. You can scroll, you can find, you can go to, otherwise, earlier you had to physically go through those things to find out what is the current instruction. Today it's much easier. Things have changed for the better, of course.
So what do you feel now the new age banking is there, that there's a difference because people are moving not from a physical banking, that is, you need not visit a branch at all, to these banking apps that's called as a neo banking now. How far you feel so this evolution will come? Do you feel that the physical banking will be completely ruled out, or it will stay together with these type of banking apps?
During the beginning of this millennium, 2001-2, everybody was predicting the death of physical branches. And because of internet and ATM and things like that. But I don't think physical branches, I don't think have only grown in number. They have not come down. Maybe in certain areas it has come down, but generally they have grown. In a country like India, where I think levels of one is access to technology, one is the ability to use technology, is still not uniform. I think physical branches will remain. I went to a branch a couple of days back along with my sister because my sister had some work. I still feel that a lot of people come to the bank even for routine activities because not everybody is comfortable with technology. Yes, I see the flower vendor and the vegetable vendor accepting UPI, but still a lot of people paying cash. So yes, in metro and urban centers, maybe the number of people visiting branches will slowly come down. But I think in the rural and semi-urban centers, I think branches will continue at least for the next decade or so. Because beyond that, it's very difficult to envision what new technology will come. I can't say. But at least for the next decade, I'm sure bank branches will remain.
I also completely agree with you, sir. I feel so that human beings being still human, the human touch is important.
See, for standardized products, I don't think maybe for human touch may be very, very limited.
Yeah.
But especially for credit for SME, credit for large corporate, credit for projects, there has to be a physical interaction. There has to be interaction. I agree. Part of the interaction can be like you and me are chatting today. I'm not saying it will not happen, but I think as human beings, I think we value physical touch also, physical face-to-face interaction also. See, body language, especially when you're assessing a borrower, no? His body language is important. I don't think I can assess body language over a video call like this or a virtual call like this. Maybe difficult. I'm not saying it is impossible. It will take time. Maybe we'll get an AI app, no, which will tell you, no, seeing your body language, derive something and tell you, yeah, this is the profile of the person whom you have talked to. I don't know. Maybe it will come, but I think for non-standardized product, because according to me, large part of credit for medium and large credit is still non-standardized. It is idiosyncratic for each borrower. There, I think a lot of interaction is necessary. Maybe you want to open a fixed deposit, you want to remit money, and all these things. I mean, as of even now, I don't think you need not go physically if you are comfortable with using technology. But the level of comfort of using technology is different for different people. So maybe today's youngsters are much more savvier. But yes, the other thing is, I think the non-availability of many applications in Indian languages. Like I use SBI's internet banking, I find it is available in 14 languages. Now I'm the chairman of Karnataka Bank, I find internet banking is available in only one language. I said, what the hell is this? How do you expect all your customers to know Hindi, English? You should at least offer it in 3 languages, English, Hindi, and Kannada. Because 60% of the business is in Karnataka. So unless more and more apps are there in the local language, and in our country, when you say local language, maybe we require 20 local languages. So unless apps move to that, I think ease for somebody using a device, especially for the not so well educated, I think bank branches will remain.
Yeah, great.
Of course, the business actually conducted in the branches will go down. People, as they move to technology, will go down.
Sure, sir. Actually, coming back to something in your career, what has been the very high moment or high phase in your career? Some incident where you have done something which has given you a sense of achievement or satisfaction. If I say my high phase was something like successful project implementation of factories by my clients. It really makes me very proud when I see projects funded by my loan assessments have come to life and really provided local employment. So if I can say in a crude language, that has given me the kick or thrill in my career. So what have been some moments for you?
There have been many such instances. I'll quote you one instance. I was a junior branch manager in 1984 in Bangalore, when one customer who had recently established small company approached me for funding for my order from ISRO. The order was only 1.60 lakhs. And he wanted a funding of 1.25 lakhs. My powers to sanction those days were only 1 lakh. So this 1.25 lakhs had to go to my regional office in Bangalore. And the person dealing with it was slightly haughty and arrogant, and she will delay everything. And this man one day came and cried to me, if the money is not given to me, I will not be able to execute the order. The order was for modems, and modems were to be used in some of the ISRO satellites or something like that. And this is the first time a modem was being manufactured in India. Then I told him, look, my powers are 1 lakh, I'll give you 1 lakh right now. So I gave 1 lakh. That was not sufficient. I exceeded my power and gave him maybe 20,000-30,000 rupees more. And he was able to supply the modems. And surprisingly, in 2009, 25 years after that incident, I was in New York. I had gone out of station, came back to New York. My secretary said, there's one gentleman desperately trying to call you from Bangalore. And she said his name is Mr. Nandi. I remembered Mr. Nandi was the MD of this company. So I called up Nandi. Nandi said, we are completing 25 years as a company. We would not have been here for two people. One is ISRO, which gave us the order, and one is State Bank, which gave us the money. So I'm at that time, the man who gave the order in ISRO was Mr. Abdul Kalam. He was not the president then. He had already retired after being president. And he said, you gave the money. I want both of you to come. He has agreed, you must come. I couldn't go because I was in New York, coming to Bangalore, again, getting approvals in a public sector organization was very difficult. But gave me a lot of satisfaction that somebody remembered you after 25 years. And it was just an order for 1.6 lakh and a loan maybe of 1.25 lakhs.
Correct, sir. Proud moment. So,
proud moment. And later when I came back from New York, he insisted I must visit his office. I found the same secretary after 25 years. So I asked the secretary, do you remember me? Because I recognize the secretary, the MD secretary. She said, yes, we are all here because of you. I know that, he said. So it gives you a lot of satisfaction. The other thing which gave me satisfaction, I was telling you earlier, I set up this data network for SBI between 2001 to 4. We took a very tough call and said BSNL will be our partner for providing connectivity. Because SBI was there all over the country. And at that time, these new service providers were available here and there in some places. Nobody had a real network. So we went and met BSNL and said, look, we have this requirement, but we can't function the way you want us to function. You will have to change. And the first change was, if you have to connect A to B in, let us say, branch A in Mumbai, branch A in Bangalore to our head office in Mumbai, you have to give either the application in Bangalore or Mumbai. And at the first phase, we were connecting 1,500 branches. I said, we can't give it 1,500 different exchanges. We will give the application at one place. We will make payment at one place. BSNL did not know how to handle this. But we made BSNL change their procedures, process. Otherwise, I don't think State Bank would have been able to implement such a huge network. Well, ultimately, we connected 25,000 branches. But when we started, it was 1,500. You can imagine 1,500 branches in 2001, 2, 3. Communication was, even many of us didn't have cell phones. In my team, I was the only guy who had a cell phone. So it was very, the way we were able to change BSNL's way of working, that gave you a lot of satisfaction. And of course, in New York, we had a huge problem with our IRS. IRS is the income tax service of US. And when I went in 2006, they gave me a bill which was more than 300 million for from 92 to 97. And we had to fight it. We fought it, and 321 million ultimately came to around 5-6 million after a 3-year fight. Gave me great satisfaction. A lot of people in the bank were afraid. The then chairman wanted to heads to roll, saying who is responsible for all this. The fact that we were able to reduce 321 million to 5 million. I saved, I think, the careers of many people. And of course, not only that, saved money for the bank, but I think the goodwill it generated us. Many of them were my seniors. They thought they were in great difficulty. They will always used to call me and tell me, no, look, I am not responsible for this. I'm not responsible for this. But I think when the whole thing was resolved, I think it gave me great satisfaction that not only I saved 300 million for the bank, but maybe many careers.
Sure, sir. Actually, these successes come with their share of failures too. That's also known. So, just wanted to know, how do you handle them gracefully? Or how one should handle them gracefully?
Yeah, I think one thing I found is to keep disappointments low. I think sometimes you have to keep expectations also. So I think the disappointment is directly proportional to the expectation. And like even in the bank, I was the youngest GM in the bank, but I lost promotion twice from GM to CGM because I had a clash with one of my seniors in the bank. It was a stand I took, which even today I don't regret. I think I did the right thing for the bank. And I knew that there will be some impact on my career if I did it. But my conscience said I have to do it. I did it. So when I was due for promotion, I knew that my promotion may not come. And it did not come. So one of my immediate the man reporting to me asked me, "You seem to be so calm." He asked me why. "How did you manage this?" I said, "Look, I knew this was going to happen. It is not that I have not been affected. This affected me. I am disappointed, but because the expectations are low, I think maybe you are able to manage your disappointment." Of course, many people will not agree with me. When you keep expectations low, maybe your growth, the growth of the organization, your growth also may get affected. So it's a very difficult thing to, but in banking, you see, NPAs are a reality. Problems are a reality. And nobody can give 100% loans without giving them being an NPA. NPAs always cause you headaches, sleepless nights.
Actually, coming back, this relates to, I remember this next question of mine, which relates. My senior always used to say that, coming back to the NPA point only, my senior used to say that as a banker, you must always learn to say no to a customer. Hearing no and saying no, both are difficult.
Yes.
To say to rejection, to provide a rejection and to get a rejection, both are equally difficult. So this sincerely has been one of my problematic statements also. When I believe a business model and still the business or the management of the bank doesn't believe it, it really works very, it really takes a toll on you yourself. So I wanted to understand, how do you see?
Yeah, I have always been telling people, and I always practice this, always put yourself in the shoe of your boss when doing something. You must put yourself in the shoe of the boss and think how he or she will react. You must understand his priorities. You must understand things from his perspective. That will enable you to maybe handle things better. Otherwise, you will always be confronting with your superiors, your boss or management, whatever it is. So you must always learn to look at things from their point of view also. Of course, it didn't come to me in my early days. Early days also, in the bank, I was known as an angry young man. I also used to always get angry. But I think as you grow older, you realize how things work. And you must understand, in the public sector system is much more difficult than in a private sector. Saying no to a customer is also difficult. I've had, at the same branch where I sanctioned this 1,25,000 rupee loan, one MP threatened me, saying if something happens to your life, because I said no to something. If something happens to your life, I am not responsible, he said. And I said, nobody is responsible. You are not responsible for my life. God is responsible for my life, I said. Maybe I shouldn't have said this. So I told my boss that this conversation happened. He said, you must be very careful of what you speak. Of course, maybe in banks like ICICI Bank, you don't have this pressure of a political pressure, but in State Bank, it is a great reality. We have to learn to live with it.
that's really a thing. Actually, that's true. I have not gone through such a difficult situation, but
many people don't face it. It's not that everybody in SBI also faces it, but yes, it's a reality. It happens. We cannot dismiss it or put it under the carpet. It is there.
And but see, even in banks also we get these irritated customers, like people walking in the branch and just just shouting at us. This is a very typical scenario we see in all branches. One way of is hearing patiently the customer and trying to resolve it. I wanted to ask you if there's any better way of handling such customers.
See, what happens, I think generally bankers tend to be defensive when they're confronted with something. I think we should never be defensive. You must accept that maybe there's a mistake or there's an error. Even if you're right initially, if you feel you're right, you must not tell the customer that he is wrong. You have to always tell him, we'll look at it and come back to you. Because normally and many people strongly feel that the bank is right at that particular point of time. Bank is right. So I think the best way to handle is that we'll come back. We will examine whatever you said, and we are not saying no to whatever you have said. We have to examine it and come back to you. And when the customer is wrong, we'll have to politely tell him later that yes, we have examined. These are the issues. This is where maybe you have made a mistake, maybe.
Maybe giving a proper timeline also may help the customer. Actually, normally banks say that come back, and then they give them a 1-2 days.
The other thing,
come back by then. And if you're not able to come back, at least tell them that yes, we'll be coming back, and take another few days to come back.
Now, the other point is, after technology, there's a tendency in the branches to tell, I don't know, it has happened in the system. No?
Yes.
So people sometimes don't take responsibility for the customer's issue. That is a big problem. That's a sore point with many of the customers. And they say that now there's that complaint, maybe there's an app or something like that. No, you register a complaint in the app. The best way to deal with such things is to help the customer register their complaint in the app. No? Sit with them, register the complaint, and tell them we will also try to follow up now that we know we have registered the complaint.
That's where I feel the physical touch or the human touch.
I'll quote an instance. It happened in another bank, not SBI, but the point that it could have happened in SBI, I'm not saying no, because we are in a similar structure. My mother was drawing family pension. She was drawing from another public sector bank. One day she said, suddenly, current month pension is 50% of previous month. So I told her, let us wait and see the month after. Month after, the same 50% came. I was in Bombay, she was in Bangalore. So I asked my sister to go to the bank and check up. The branch, they clearly gave that pension cells number. Nobody took ownership of the problem. They gave the pension cell number to my sister. My sister said she rang them up 25 times. Nobody picked the phone. Then my mother shouted at me, what's the point in your being such a senior person in SBI? Then I had to contact somebody senior in that bank and got that issue resolved. And later, after retirement also, twice there were problems with my mother's pension. And it never got resolved in the branch. I had to go to speak to the ED or the MD because I knew them personally. It is not the right way of resolving the problem. I think what is happening because of technology, there's a lack of ownership of customer issues at the branch. That's what I've been telling everywhere where I used to go to an SBI, now in Karnataka Bank also. Please take ownership of the problem, even if you cannot resolve it immediately. You have to take ownership of the problem and then resolve it. Don't expect the customer to ring up some 1-800 number or something.
So you still believe that the saying is still applicable to banking as well? Customer is the king.
Yeah, see, customer, generally you have to presume that he's always right. That will gives you, puts you in a better position to deal with him when he is not right.
And actually, what do you feel the importance of teamwork in effective delivery of results in our work? Is it there in banking or maybe there? With branch banking, everybody has their own set of jobs, but still I feel so teamwork is still important. And I'm sure during your various stints in various, products, and you still feel teamwork. How critical is teamwork?
I mean, without teamwork, no organization can succeed. It is plain and simple. Whether it is a branch, whether it is some controlling office, whether it is head office, whether the IT division, teamwork is necessary.
But how do you
Without
make the
teamwork,
teamwork? How do you make the teamwork together?
It's very difficult. You should always don't give individual goals, give goals to the team.
So goal setting is one of them.
Goal
you have an ideal goal
setting and ensure that there is interdependency. Ensure there is interdependency so that people are dependent on each other for completing their task.
Okay.
It is difficult. See, I think by nature, Indians are not good at teamwork. It's by nature. I think it's one of our weaknesses of our culture. And I think that comes from the religion. Because the Hindu religion, which is 85% of the country, there is no single God. There is no single leader. And there is no single path to salvation. Your practice of religion is your own. Whereas if you see in so many religions, you go to the mosque, there's a congregation, everybody prays together. You go to the church, everybody prays together. Even if you go to temple, you pray alone. You don't pray together. I think that comes from our culture, that we are not good at teamwork. It is, I think, a weaknesses, and weaknesses may be more pronounced in public sector organizations, maybe less pronounced in private sector organizations. But it is there. But without teamwork, you cannot succeed. I sit in this banking board bureau and trying to interview people for executive director or MD. This is one of my standard questions. See whether he's a team man. I am trying to assess whether he's a team man. People go through some assessment centers. There it comes out, what are his traits, what is positive traits or the negative traits. I try to concentrate on weakness and try to find out whether he's aware of that, what steps he's making to overcome that.
That's come to actually is an effective leadership. The ideal.
And I think unfortunately the incentive system is also too individual oriented. Yeah, I don't think any organization, be it private sector like you or public sector, we have a team incentive. I believe team incentives are necessary. You do well, you get some ESOP or you get some PLI production. But it's not for an individual, it should be for a team. Like suppose a branch does well, there must be a branch incentive, of course, which is shared in some proportion amongst everybody. But everybody should get it. Even those who have not contributed maybe. Better force them to contribute later. Small portion. And people crave for recognition. So I think that somehow we don't provide. And when we succeed, we think it is always because of us. That's why I was telling recently, addressing some Karnataka Bank staff when we were launching some program for CASA. So I told the branch managers, even if your peon at your branch gets one account, maybe only 500 rupees, congratulate him. Evening, maybe 5 people in the branch come together, have a cup of tea, give him one flower. You don't have to give him a crown. Give him one flower. And tell him that whatever, even the smallest contribution made, is valuable for the organization. And that is where I think we fail. We are all target oriented. Everywhere, everybody is running after targets. But ultimately, organization is run by human beings. Human beings are very, very important. Nothing can be achieved without human beings. Technology will help us achieve, but it cannot achieve. Technology can tell me that you are a potential customer. But ultimately, to convert you from a potential customer to a customer, human being is required. A human interaction is required.
Correct, sir. Completely. Right. That's even we say.
I mean, I think that is the bane of many organizations, that we don't recognize teamwork, and we don't recognize people contribute in small driplets. No, it's very important. Every man contributes, every person contributes. That person who has contributed must be recognized in some form. And everything need not be monetary. Everything need not be monetary, but unfortunately, the present thinking of incentives are all very, very monetary. Whatever it is, whether it's cash or ESOP. ESOP is ultimately monetary only.
Yeah. Appreciation is actually
Yes.
one of the
a good word, a small this thing is very, very. Just shake hands. See, I don't know whether you have gone to the State Bank corporate sector building. There's a lot of security outside. And people, and generally, if you wear a coat or a tie, they'll salute you. Many of them may not recognize you, of course. Even when I was a relatively junior DGM and all, I will always respond. Just say hello, no? Nothing more. And there was a time identity cards were issued, and without identity card, you couldn't enter and all that. When I got transferred out of Bombay and went to Chennai, maybe Trivandrum, New York, I will always get royal entry into the building without any identity, because people recognized me.
Yes.
Why they recognize me? Because I responded to them. I don't know even their names. They will everywhere time ask me, "Aap kidhar hain saab abhi?"
Yeah.
Simple. This thing, I will always return their morning salute or good morning, whatever this, I'll return them. Because they felt I was one who was treating them as a human being, not just a god or something like that. So that is very important, very, very important.
Actually, normally the saying goes that it's very lonely at the top, and you have held top positions in, many of the places. So do you face a challenge? So, what is your definition of being an ideal boss and effective leadership?
See, ultimately, organizations, what is organization? It's a group of people. You have to get to know your people. See, in a bank, you are frequently transferred, but somehow you know some people somewhere. When you go, you are not a total stranger and all that. But when I went as posted as managing director of State Bank of Travel, I went to a place where I didn't know anybody. And banking is a business of trust. Without trust, you should have at least some people whom you can trust to go forward, do business. It was very difficult. Then the only thing is it's constant dialogue with the team. And when I went, I didn't know anybody. And maybe the left time, maybe I knew 500 people or 1,000 people. How was it? By talking. And I do not know whether it's applicable in private sector banks and public sector banks. Is essential for senior people to visit branches and interact with people. It's very, very essential. One, they feel now the top man has come to our office. He has recognized that we are part of the system. And when you go there, you have to meet everybody and talk to everybody, even if it is a simple good morning, good afternoon, how are you? No? It is necessary for people to feel motivated, to feel they're part of an organization, and they think the top man thinks they are important.
You were once even the country head of USA. So do you feel that being a head in India is different and being a head in some outside country is completely different?
See, one must understand we are going through a different legal system, different cultural system, and consequently different banking system. So it is extremely difficult. I'm not saying no. And in a country like USA, here you have one banking regulator here. I used to have 3 regulators. The Federal Reserve Bank was my regulator. The State Department of Banking was another regulator. And they have something like a DICGC called FDIC, Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. All 3 were regulators. And sometimes there will be problem between regulators. Each regulator will have a different view, different opinion of certain things. It's always very difficult. So I used to ask them, used to have an internal audit. There'll be a 3-year internal audit plan, and we'll go up. Now, 1 year, one regulator will come and say, make these changes in the plan. Next year, another regulator will say, no, you have to make further changes. So I used to ask them, no, either you come together and give me one advice. You can't do this, but regulator being regulator, you cannot. It's difficult. So regulatory system, the legal system, everything to understand is very difficult. Culture is different. The way you use English language itself is different. American English is different from the English we speak, because we generally speak the British English. We use the word schemes, I think at least in public sector words, we use the word schemes very ordinarily. That scheme has got a negative connotation. Simple English.
It's actually a different ballgame altogether.
Yeah, and you see, we go from India, there people will discuss about basket. I mean, if you want to go off some other topic, they'll discuss baseball, they'll discuss basketball, they'll discuss American football. So you have to have a conversation with somebody. You have to learn these things also. You don't never know anything. Nowadays, of course, I think people see TV and all, and they're aware, much better. Like I've seen my nephew who's much better aware of things. He has even seen American sitcoms in India, which I have never seen. So to have a conversation with somebody also, icebreaker as they call it, to break the ice also, you should talk on something common. And even if you have to talk about their politics, you have to be well aware of what is happening. So that is the time to get to know things. Initial time is extremely difficult. Working in US, I think in US was a great challenge. Of course, fortunately or unfortunately, I went just before the meltdown and stayed back after the meltdown also. 2 years before the meltdown and 2 years after the crisis. So I've seen both the worlds.
Great, sir. Actually, in this episode, I think it's covered by many, young generation also. And I feel so in today's generation, there is a lot of work pressure which is called. So, any views on how to handle work pressure?
I think the problem comes because I think we are not able to organize and we are not good at teamwork. That is the problem of pressure. I have seen people in the SBI, successful people, maybe working from 10 to 6 or 10 to 7 and going away. Because it depends on how effectively you deal with it as a team. And I think people should not burn themselves out while working 12 hours a day. And I am totally against it. Everyone, human being, is a man with a lot of other emotional needs also. He has the needs of his family. He has to meet all that. I don't think anybody should work, according to me, for more than 10 hours. That's a maximum one should work. And one should switch off during weekends. Very difficult. Yeah, because even as MD, I don't think I had no Sunday totally free. Although I wanted it to be, so many papers to read, so many papers to read. In SBI, unfortunately, we have what is called the Executive Committee of the Central Board, where all the 90% of the loan proposals get discussed, large loan proposals. And that meeting is every week as per statute. And such a huge pile of paper, each proposal some 150 pages, and at least 20-30 proposals in the board.
Maybe organizing your time is one of the ways.
I've seen a colleague of mine who says, I read everything in office. I have the time. I found it extremely difficult to organize myself and read it in the office. So I was always, in awe of the gentleman, my colleague who said, I read everything in office. I don't read anything at all.
Actually, coming back to the career advice, what advice will you give to youngsters who want to choose banking as their profession? Nowadays IT is more lucrative, the best, but still, or sometimes I feel that banking is losing their charm as a profession. Which you mentioned that when you had started, banking was one of the jobs, and when I started also, it was one of the jobs. But now I don't feel so that young professionals really are looking forward for banking as their entry. It is, yes, one of them, but people will like to invest in banking and all sorts of those products. The normal day-to-day branch banking is not many people are, not varied of, don't want to enter this profession.
I do agree with you because I was talking to our local association a month back. I said 60s, 70s, 80s, and maybe part of early 90s, everybody was joining a bank. And from mid 90s, everybody is joining only a software company. My community, nobody has joined SBI as a probationary officer after 1983.
It's actually a difficult time. Who will run the finance?
The difficulty is because of 2 or 3 things. One, you see now in families, both people are working, both husband and wife are working. It was not the case maybe 40 years back. When both are working, transfers make life extremely difficult. Education has become so competitive, I don't think parents want to change their children's school. These are things which are coming in the way of people joining banks. First of all, I believe if we want to get good people into the banking system, first, I think banking should be strictly made 5 days a week. So people who go maybe on transfer also can come and join their family at least in the weekend. So that should be made. Well, now, of course, I think it is 2 weeks. We have 5 days. I think first of all, it should be 5 days. And I think State Bank has started this. They are recruiting people saying we will not transfer you outside the state. But they said you will not go beyond AGM. I think that's a good way of attracting people. Because see, people are always afraid from Karnataka to go to say maybe Jharkhand or Orissa or Punjab. So you give them the confidence that yes, you write the exam, I'm telling you will be only in Karnataka. But you will not go beyond AGM. I think many people are willing. For running the nuts and bolts of the retail banking and the branch banking, you don't require great skill. You want people with limited skill, but we require people with commitment.
There, people need to work with a lot of empathy. So
yes.
that's there the customer interaction is the highest.
Yes.
At least in the tier 2 and tier 3 cities, especially.
No, even in tier 1 cities, central like Mumbai or Bangalore, the interaction with the customer is important, as important as the customer somewhere in Nanded or Aurangabad. People should know how to. So, one, like just before retirement, SBI opened a branch near my village. It is on the national highway between Mangalore and Udupi. I only inaugurated the branch. 2-3 years back, I went to the branch. Just casually, it is next to a temple. I went to the temple next to. The branch manager is from Jharkhand. It's a rural center. What will a branch manager from Jharkhand who has maybe learned a bit of Kannada in the 5 or 7 years she has been in the state be able to deliver? I strongly believe that I think this All India cadre and all which the public sector banks have, I don't think it is going to work anymore. If you want to attract talent, we'll have to change the way we are. And once you reach fairly senior levels, I think transfers should be very, very minimal. At least center. Otherwise, people will find it not very attractive to join banks. As I said, they'll be interested in investment banking. Investment banking, they can spend all their life in Mumbai. So the family is stable. The spouse also be happy. The children will go to the same good school for 10, 12 years. So I think banks have to change if they have to attract good quality people into the system. Like I was reminded of an interview by Arun Jaitley in 2003 on NDTV, Walk the Talk. Shekhar Gupta used to conduct this interview, Walk the Talk. So he was asked why he became a lawyer. So he said, उस जमाने में क्या था? Write the civil services exam, I write the state bank probationers exam. इसके अलावा कुछ नहीं था. I didn't want to do both. I became a lawyer. So banking was a good career in the 60s and 70s when people like Jaitley perhaps were growing up, maybe slightly older than me, maybe 3-4 years senior to me by age. So if it has been made attractive for people to join now, I think the way we recruit has to change, the way we post has to change.
But I still feel that banking holds a lot of challenges on a personal side. So I will really recommend the young professionals to join this industry. Actually, a lot of growth.
If the country has to grow, economic and prosperity has to grow, without a good banking system, it will not grow. If you want a good banking system, you have to be able to attract good people, talented people to the banking system.
I'm sure government is making some.
Banks like ICICI banks and all, I think have been able to correct the system. I mean, I think there are two different streams, branch banking and other banking. I think they're sort of separating it. Some sort of career movement is there for the branch banking people up to a particular level. I think that is where it has to happen.
And I'm sure with this privatization and merging of all these private, public sector banks, I'm sure this will come out.
I think there's a good trend. Let us see how it goes through.
And how do you feel, association between banks and organizations like Gokul can be further enhanced?
That is a very difficult question. You see, the only way is, I think now with CSR, there's always this culture part, which is part of CSR, officially part of CSR. One, banks can sponsor many activities in Gokul, and so I mean similar association to ensure that our culture is gets its due. And maybe banks can catch people young, convince the youth to join their organization, or at least the industry, if not their organization, the industry. Maybe programs to tell them about the opportunities, career. Of course, nowadays everything is available on the internet, but still, maybe somebody from, let us say, ICICI or State Bank comes and talks to all the Gokulites and say, what are the opportunities in this sector? What are the opportunities that are available? Because I always remember SBI's tagline in its advertisement, recruitment advertisement those days for probationers, that the smart ones can become the chairman of the bank.
Such such events should be happening on a regular basis. Then only this can go.
And I do. You see, when we joined the bank, in our group, we joined in State Bank as a large training academy in Hyderabad. We all joined there, and there are many people who aspire to be chairman even on that first day. And that's when aspiration is required. Without hope, man cannot survive. So aspiration and hope is always required.
Aspirations make betterment of the life. It actually makes you run through the whole bridges and whatever you face challenges, really go through because of these aspirations. So really thanking you, sir, for sharing your valuable insights on the current outlook, both in banking as a segment and as a career. I'm sure youngsters have learned and got an opportunity to get your guidance, behavioral aspects, related to leadership. I myself, it was a pleasure interacting with you.
Thank you, Sowdamini.
Yeah. And I'm sure, Guru, if there is anything from the audience?
Yeah, no questions as of now. I think we can conclude.
Can't hear you, Guru.
Yeah.
Network engineer must set it right immediately.
Hope you also had a wonderful time with us, sir.
I had a wonderful time.
Yeah.
Am I audible now?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I think we have no questions as of now, so I think we can conclude. Pradeep sir, your stories and your views were certainly inspiring, and I'm sure the audience had a lot to take from this session, and also get the youngsters inspired for the banking sector. Thank you, Sowdamini ma'am, for conducting this conversation beautifully. Thank you, sir, for your insights and your time. As always, the audience is the most important part of any program. So we thank you all for being a part of this BSKB YouthWing family and encouraging us to look forward for next session every time. We thank the president and the managing committee of the BSKB Association for giving us this opportunity, as well as for their support and encouragement. I'd also like to thank the YouthWing chairman, Haridas Bhat, Tanvi Rao, Ms. Janvi Poti, and Supriya Uduka for the coordination. Please subscribe to our channel and follow us on Instagram by the name of YouthWing BSKB. Thank you all for joining. Namaskar.
Thank you, Guru. Thank you, Sowdamini.
Yes, thanks a lot.